Hey, gang. Josh Mora here from the Back Nine Podcast. This is the podcast where my longtime friend, Dennis Williams, and we bring in a guest. We talk about being on the back nine of life. Really not that high or difficult a concept. It's golf as metaphor. We discuss some of the issues we run into, how we relate to people on the back nine of life, maybe simply how we can get the most out of being on the back nine, the second half of life. So if that sounds even the slightest bit intriguing, and it should because our guests are either kind of funny or extremely insightful, then stick around because it's showtime on the back nine.
This is the Back Nine with Dennis Williams and Josh Mora.
Dennis, it's showtime. You're not in costume. Places, everybody. Did you hear it called Places?
I'm in costume. We're wearing our golf outfits today. We got golf shirts on.
I had you something like in a top hat with a cane.
Yeah, I'm not doing the show today. No shows for you today.
Very disappointed. I look forward to the shows. You're so good at it.
So speaking about the back nine, how has your transition been into civilian life?
Yeah, or non-corporate life.
Non-corporate life. I mean that in a really serious way. You made a huge transition. I made it too.
Yeah.
You get out of the corporate world. You get into this world where you're not punching a time clock every day. Not that you were as a manager. You had some flexibility, but still you were responsible to the man, if you will, to show up every day and let people know where you were and all that kind of stuff. And now you don't have to do any of that.
And to the team I directed, I miss the team. I mean, I miss that group because it was always fun to motivate them and to work with them and to see them progress and grow. But I'm telling people I'm retired, which is great.
Oh, I used to do that too.
And I tell people, the retirement is great because the goal in retirement is to run out of money just at the moment that you die. So if I can make it to lunch on Thursday, I think I've got it covered. But I am enjoying that, and I'm enjoying the possibilities that are still out there, right? So as I'm doing project work and doing contract work in addition to the podcast and my production company, exploring what some of those possibilities can be is one of the most liberating things I've ever been a part of.
Well, it's amazing how your kind of worldview just changes because you go down a lane and then it leads you to another lane, and none of these things you had time for before. You didn't have any time to even think about them. So I know you're like connecting little dots here and there to different opportunities. And it's actually really fun for a while. It really is.
It is. And getting the opportunity to explore things. I just had a conversation earlier today, in fact, with someone who had been a business partner from another company who I hadn't spoken to in 4 or 5 years. And when I posted that I was making this change, he responded. We'd always gotten well, even though we didn't work all that closely. And that conversation meant a ton to me, that he would reach out on LinkedIn and make a comment and wish me luck and say, hey, reach out to me. And then we just had a terrific conversation. It was really rewarding, and it makes you feel good about some of the things that you've done in your past.
Yeah. And speaking about retirement, I mean, this guy we're going to have on was part of my pre-retirement from my first career, which was I ended my sportscasting career in 2008. And this guest was kind of a part of the end of that. And it's not his fault.
You got to work with him or interview him or have some interaction. I had just left Buffalo, but this is a guy who, an NFL player in his day with the Jaguars and the Bills and probably I think the Texans, right? And now has a great podcast of his own. He is Marques Ogden of the Get Authentic podcast. And Marques, we are so glad that you're joining us. Welcome into the Back Nine.
Thanks so much, Josh. How you doing, Dennis?
Great to see you again. I mean, I'm sure that we had many interactions back in the day, and we were just, before the show came on, we were reminiscing about players from those Bills teams when they were cycling through coaches like no team in the league. They've settled down 10 years later and started to make the playoffs and have had the same coach for 7 or 8 years, I think, Sean McDermott. But you were there at the times when they were like literally shuffling through coaches. In 2 years, you had 2 different coaches, right? Yeah.
Yep. I had Mike Mularkey, and then I had Dick Geron.
Yeah. Right on.
So take us back to those days. I mean, I'm sure in many ways it feels like it's worlds away, but our audience, I'm sure, would love to get into the head and the mind of what it's like to be an NFL player, even for a few years.
So I played for almost 6 years, right, Josh? And to really be an NFL athlete, you have to do a couple of things. One, you have to actually sacrifice your body, your time, and the things that you love to do because it is a job, a career that happens all year round. you don't have any time off. Well, you got to cut myself. No, because in reality, if you don't lift, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't do those things that are necessary, you will get out of shape fast. And then you have to get into shape. So it's a job that is really about you staying in phenomenal shape all year round. And then if you really are a smart player, you should be in your community. You should be doing everything you need to do to build relationships with the media, with your fan base. So when you do retire, and that happens to be, you have a good, nice conduit to the next phase or the back nine of your life. And I tell everybody, it's all about you realizing that, yeah, you're an athlete now, but you won't be an athlete forever. And so if you're not going to have the type of mindset to really be humble and work hard and be very, very entertaining and very intertwining with the fans, your potential supporters, your community, when you do retire, they're going to forget you as fast as you forgot them. So again, that's been one thing that really helped me in my construction company when I was doing work in Baltimore. And then it really helped me now that I'm in Raleigh doing a lot of work for retired NFL communities, different NFL teams. And I was always trying to find ways to connect with people. So again, if you're listening and you really think about the back nine of your life, take care of people in the front nine of your life. The back nine gets a lot easier.
Yeah. What was the inspiration for Get Authentic? How did you come up with the idea and why did you decide to put together that podcast?
So I was with a co-host for the Lev and Marques show. And unfortunately, my co-host and I, Leverett Ball, did not see eye to eye on certain things around the finances of the brand and what we were making. He wanted to make more, which I, of course, did too. But it was hard because we didn't have the type of large following that he was wanting us to have. And when we parted ways, I was done with podcasting. Another guy you guys will have heard of, Mr. Gus Farrat, who was with the Alumni Media. Gus said, hey, Marques, you need to start another podcast. You're great. It's sensational. You're the best. I'm like, no, Gus, no, thank you. It took him 4 times to ask me to start a podcast. I said yes on the 4th time. And Get Authentic was really designed to help people stop trying to be what others want them to be and be okay with who you are and stop trying to fit into a box or fit into a circle. Go create your own circle. Go have your own friends. Go have the vicinity of people you want around you. And stop trying to fit into everybody else's box. I'm recently divorced, well, probably about like the last 2 years. And I realized in my marriage, I was constantly trying to fit into a box of what my ex wanted, her parents, some of her friends. And I was constantly trying to be someone that I really wasn't. And in my new life, I'm like, hey, look, if you don't like me, that's okay. No problem. And in my Tony Montana book, that's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm good. We will just agree to be nice and cordial, but you won't be a friend. And that's okay, too. And so that's how I got to you all. Janine is a friend. Olivia, I've been coaching Olivia and helped her get into the business. And Janine has helped her as well in what she's done. So that's how I got here, is working with people like Olivia, like Janine. Now I know Josh and Dennis, and now here we are.
And for our audience at home, Janine is our producer, and Olivia is on the staff here as well. Marques, are these realizations that you've come to, these epiphanies, for lack of a better term, do you think they apply on the front nine as well? Or is there something that happens as we cross a certain threshold in our life? Maybe it's a number and an age. Maybe it's an experience like getting divorced or something like that, where you think that transition and that realization of a need to be more authentic for oneself becomes apparent?
So in the front nine of your life, you really a lot of times are being molded by your family, your parents, your friends, things like that. And so you should want to have the position of being who you are, but sometimes when you're young, you're not really, either you don't know who you are, you're not sure, or if you think you know who you are and people around you are trying to say something different, you are very impressionable, you are going to follow what other people say and all that. So it's difficult to live that life when you are literally just kind of young. As you get older, I'm hoping that you have what's called the DGAF button, and then move on in your life, right? And again, if people are not going to give you the best version of themselves, if they're not going to give you the real, authentic, vulnerable version of themselves, then why are you even around them? Why are you even bothering? So to answer your question, when we're young, I hope people have that. But a lot of times we don't have the type of strength at that. I know I sure didn't. And we are very impressionable and we can be molded by parents and friends and loved ones. But as we get older, we learn how to discern what we want, what we think. And when you get to that point, life is in a much better position, in my opinion.
Hey, Marques, what are some of the tools you use to do that? How do you recognize authenticity in people? Because I think sometimes people are fooled, right, by certain people. I'm just curious if you have certain tools or advice to people on recognizing and understanding authenticity.
When somebody is trying to connect with me and I tell them who I am at my core, and you only want to tell me the good part of your life or the rosy red part of your life, I'm not interested. I was literally doing a podcast today. It's my second podcast of the day. And I told a guy on the other show I was on, one of my favorite movies is Wizard of Oz. And Dorothy and Toto had to go through the tornado, right? When they saw the witch and all that type of stuff, right? And that tornado represents the craziness of life that we all have to go through, right? They were trying to get to, well, I guess not trying to, they ended up in Munchkin Land where it was like colors, beautiful, the yellow brick road, green, blue, red, blue skies, all these things, in which that represents getting to a place in life where you're fulfilled, where you're happy. And I told him, people who are trying to talk to me and all you're giving me is your Munchkin Land version of life, yeah, I'm good. But if you're going to tell me like the tornado part that Dorothy and Toto went through and all that you've gone through to get to the other side, and then you're either at or hoping to get to Munchkin Land, we can be friends. So I like to equate it to give me your Dorothy and Toto tornado version of your life. But don't give me the Munchkin Land, because that's how you're going to get me. Then I can just go right on by you. I can go right to watch Wonka and just move on with my life.
The podcast, the Get Authentic podcast, is such an excellent podcast because you cover different kinds of authenticity. You talk about workplace authenticity. You talk about relationship authenticity. You talk about internal authenticity. Is the strategy for finding your own authentic self, so not just recognizing authenticity in others, but the steps that one has to take from, again, is it late 30s into 40s? Is it pre-divorce into post-divorce? Are the steps that you find in those similar? Are they the same kinds of strategies, or is it maybe a little bit different for work versus personal? And if so, or whether it is or it isn't, what are the steps that one has to be able to take to discover one's own authenticity?
So the steps are not any different, whether it's personal or business or professional or your private life. And the steps that you have to take is you have to figure out who you are first and be okay with that. When I lost everything in my construction company and moved to Raleigh with $400 to my name, I didn't know myself, and I still wasn't in a position trying to get myself better. It took me losing everything, and then it took me going through a rock bottom moment. And once that moment hit, right, gentlemen, I had to evaluate what I do good authentically, because at that point, I am done lying. I am done pointing the finger. I'm going to take my big thumb and point it back towards me. And the only way, right, Josh, is I could get out of that situation was me coming to save me. There was no white knight. There was none. The NFL did a phenomenal job giving me an opportunity to get my life together with the Gene Upshaw Trust Fund. They paid 4 months of my bills, and I praise them constantly, daily, anytime I can for all they did for me. But that was them giving me a chance to get my life back together. If I wasn't going to work for it, I wasn't going to really go out there and earn it. They said, Marques, at the end of the 4 months, you're on your own. And so it took me to hit rock bottom and really figure out, gentlemen, what I was good at. And not only that, face what I was good at and face it in a way that I mean, don't sit around, know what you're good at, and don't do jack beat with it or bleep with it, right? Know what you're good at, but not doing anything to utilize it to move forward to help others and create a new life for yourself. You might as well not even found it, because what was the use? So that's what it takes in my eyes. It's like understanding who you are at your core, facing it and being strong enough to move forward and go into that next phase of life, no matter how much out of your comfort zone you have to stretch.
We'll be right back. Friends, I want to tell you about a really exciting company called Peat Learning. Peat is dedicated to helping organizations of all sizes optimize their training initiatives. They specialize in enabling the development of AI-powered courses, which can then be tailored for all kinds of corporate training needs. Peat Learning offers a suite of customizable and extremely cost-effective solutions that enable companies to deliver personalized workforce learning to their employees. Put simply, Peat is an indispensable partner for any evolving company. So visit Peat Learning at peat.com. That's PETE.com.
If you need a benefit auctioneer for your next fundraising gala, hire Eric Goodman, who's broken fundraising records all over the country. Josh and I have known Eric for over 30 years, and he's one of the most passionate, energetic, and hardworking people we know. Eric's consulting strategies and successful fundraising techniques is why he raised $1 million in 10 minutes at a recent event. Visit yourfundraisingteam.com to see a video of his work, testimonials, and then book with Eric today so your nonprofit can have a record-breaking night.
All right, back to the show.
It's important for our listeners to know that, you didn't just coast out of the NFL and have a glorious gazillion-dollar career and then into this podcasting world. We didn't touch on that yet. You really did have to hit sort of rock bottom to figure all this out, and that's difficult. So maybe take us through a little bit of that and how you recovered.
So for me, rock bottom was working as a custodian when I was taking the trash out about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and somebody's trash and rotten meat and nasty, protruding, horrible smelling garbage got all over my body, my skin, and my clothes. And I had to sit down on a curb. I had to cry. I didn't have to, but I did for about 10 minutes. And then what happened is, gentlemen, I realized there was no accountability, no responsibility, no ownership, no taking the reins, saying, Marques, you are and you were the culprit. And as a result of that, I ended up not being able to get my life back together. So when it happened for me is when that trash got on me, and I realized at that moment, nobody put me in that position but me and my ego. And once I understood that, and I took full responsibility and I accepted that, I then said, okay, it's time to move forward. And let's go from there.
So what I hear from that is finding your authentic self is a big part of that is not playing a victim. We see so many people that have that victim mentality. It's somebody else's fault. They blame everything that happens to them on someone else. So in order to find your authenticity, Marques, do you believe that that's a key component, that you have to realize that you're not a victim?
Oh, yeah. You have to have what I call the victor mentality, not the victim mentality. And the victor mentality is when you really understand that at the end of the day, you can take any situation and become better in life. But it starts with you saying, I know where I am, I know who I am, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to move forward and get things done no matter what in that regard.
Did you have any tools, Marques, that you used to help you come up with the answers to those questions? Because it sounds to me like there's at least a couple of stages to that, right? One is asking the questions, and then the second part is coming up with the answers to them.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I was doing well accepting things, but I didn't learn how to actually turn my pain into my purpose until I went to the NAPSA program, the National Athletic Professional Success Academy in Pennsylvania at Penn State University. I was sent there by the NFL Trust. My mentor, who's a former NFL player, you guys probably know Andre Collins, played for the Bears and the Washington Redskins, sent me up to that program. And once I left that program, I understood how to use my life. I understood the process of taking what you want and then turning it into what others need to hear and how to become more accountable, how to become more responsible. Not just that, how to communicate it in a way where people say, yes, that makes sense. Yes, I relate to that. Yes, I'm empathetic towards that. Yes, I'm compassionate towards that. Marques, you're the person I want to hire. I was in Cabo not that long ago. I spoke for one of our large clients, 1,000 Mile Travel. They had some phenomenal sponsors there like Carnival Cruise, Delta, United, Virtuoso, Sabre, Hyatt Hotels and Resorts. And people loved our story because I was able to take my story and then turn it into something people could understand through language, through communications, through honesty, through vulnerability. And then now in the back nine of my life, I know how to do that. Versus in the beginning of my life, it was a crapshoot, right? And so to answer your question in a more specific way, the coaching program at NAPSA changed my life, but not just that. The people at NAPSA helped me to realize how to use the front nine of my life to help me secure the back nine of my life.
And how do you convey those lessons to your audiences? I mean, what are the specific things that you say then, both when you're, it's more than just the two things, but, at a retreat like that, to the podcast audience? How do you make sure that those lessons connect? What are your specific bullet points or strategies to them?
So I was called the business value drivers. I got that one at NAPSA at Penn State, and then there's 6 of them. And then what I love to do is whoever I'm speaking to or I'm interviewing or I'm talking to, I will then use one of those 6 business value drivers. Like, for example, one of them is strategy and tactics, which talks about strategic planning, tactical planning, and at the same time, executing and creating an alignment around a unified vision. So that's one of the strategies. Another one is inventiveness and innovation, right? So another one is delivering high value performance through what we call performance visualization. So no matter who I'm speaking to, one of the 6 or multiple of the 6 business value drivers will relate. And once that happens, people are like, yep, that makes sense. Yep, I love that. Yep, I love this. And then what happens is say, yep, I want to listen to your podcast. I want to hire you. I want you to coach me. I want you to consult for us. And that's how it's grown from literally 0 clients in 2013 to now we've worked with over 55 Fortune 500 brands as a speaker. We have a top-rated podcast. I'm a coach. I'm a consultant. I'm a business owner. I help people with all types of mindset things or life things or how to be a better speaker or how to grow in your career or how to utilize your brand to get to the next level. Whatever the case can be, or you have a podcast, how to really work on your pitch and your mantra and how to monetize and all those type of things.
Well, you're an inspiration to us because we're trying to get there too, and we're trying to do a lot with this back nine concept, and to get somebody of your stature in the podcasting world and a former athlete that was around when we were doing our previous career that we retired from, too. Really cool to connect with you, Marques, and I hope we can have you on again and stay connected because just in this 20 minutes or so, we've certainly learned a lot, and we could stay on and do a couple hours with you, but we know you gotta run. You got.
Kids to pick up, right?
You got kids to pick up, right?
I appreciate that, man. People can connect me, guys. I have an app, the Marques Ogden app, which is has an Apple or Android phone. You can just go there. It's free. You can get free exclusive content in that regard. You can go to our website, www.marquesogden.com, and our podcast is called Get Authentic with Marques Ogden. You can access it off of our app, off our website, Apple, Android, YouTube, Spotify, you name it. And again, right, gentlemen, it's all about owning where you are in your life and saying, you know what, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and I deserve it. And once you believe that, nothing can stop you.
That's fantastic. We should point out Marques is for the audience, Marques, Marques Ogden. Hey, congratulations on all your successes, Marques. And you're an inspiration to us, as Dennis said. I fully agree with that. And we're just thrilled that you were able to join us. And we're fans of your podcast as well. So continue success.
Gentlemen, I appreciate it. I'll give you guys one piece of advice.
Yeah.
Listen to the experts you all are working with, like Janine, Olivia. And again, I tell everybody, if you want to be great, you need to have people like them that you can trust, that you know what they're saying is factual and you can count on. And once you have that, nothing can hold you back.
That's awesome. Thanks, you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Well, that was terrific. Yeah. I mean, to me, the thing that immediately comes out is the idea of turning pain into purpose. And we all have pivot moments. His is so graphic and stark, from the high of being an NFL player to having his whole body covered in trash to now being a very successful podcaster, influencer, business leader, because he found his purpose, because he was able to identify, this is not who I am. I want to be. I am something else, and I know it. And the podcast that he has provides a lot of guidance to his audience, to people like us, for how to get there.
Yeah, can I tell you the whole reason we're here, you and I are sitting across from each other? Because we're two people that shared our scars, right? With each other.
That's right.
We wouldn't be friends for 30 years had we not. Have we played golf and had a lot of beers together and had some crazy fun times and all the good stuff? But that's great. Like, we'll always be friends doing that. But the reason we're sitting here and doing this podcast, and the reason we've been friends for 30 years, is exactly what he said. Authentic people show their scars. And we've done that. And if you look at who's close to us, our circle of friends and the people that we're close to, it's those type of people. Not the people that are in Munchkin Land, like he said, not those people. It's the people that might be in Munchkin Land part of the time, but they're also in Kansas the other part of the time, right? Where it's black and white and it's dark and it's windy and it's painful, and you want to tell those stories too. So that's what I got out of it, is you really start to think, okay, yeah, you're right.
And to build off of that, Dennis, there is sometimes an association with being vulnerable as being weak. And it's the opposite. Being vulnerable is being strong. I mean, first of all, physically, this guy was an imposing NFL lineman. He is a gigantic person. He's just a big person. And he was more than willing to be able to say, to be a real man, I need to be vulnerable, right? That's what it means, to be able to be comfortable enough to be able to show your scars, to be able to say, I'm not perfect, to be able to say, this is who I am, and I'm going to stand up for that. And I think that's a message that we lose sight of. We put on front, especially when we're younger. We talk about, well, that person's going to disrespect me. Drop that. Yeah. It's just ego. It's childish. When you're comfortable with yourself, when you're authentic with yourself, that's when you can really open up into great, deep, connected relationships. And I can't speak for everyone on the back nine, but the people in our circle that have put us in this position, who have joined us in this effort, are all people who want to have those deeper connections.
I agree. And I think the other thing, too, is in those moments, in those dark moments, like when he had the garbage all over him, he didn't have that victim mentality. Right. And how many people do we know that in those moments, oh, woe is me, it's not my fault, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault, and they're finger pointing at other people when they don't look inside at themselves, at their true issues. And he did that, and that's got him on the other side. So, I mean, incredible. What a great way to end the season.
Fantastic. So he was Marques Ogden. Again, it's Marques if you're looking for it. Marques Ogden. He has a website, and the podcast, which is outstanding, is called Get Authentic. We have just wrapped another season. So we've got a season 3 ahead, but we're going to finish this one with a 19th hole.
Next week, yep.
Next week. How about that?
Yeah, season 2, we're wrapping it up.
It's great.
It's absolutely been extraordinary. And we couldn't have had a better guest to finish season 2. It's been an epic season. If this was the first episode you listened to, go back and listen to some of the other ones. There's a lot of different ones that connect with different people. So it's been great.
Special thanks to our producer, Janine, our associate producer, Olivia, to you, my friend, and to all our guests, and of course, our audience. Guys, thanks so much for being a part of this. And we look forward to seeing you on season 3.
Let's go. We're really happy that you could join us today on the Back Nine podcast, and we're really trying to build a community.
Yeah, so please not only listen, subscribe, follow us, download, share with your friends that you found something in our community here.
We really, really appreciate everybody who's downloaded even a single episode and shared the time with us. We know your time is valuable. Please also give us a 5-star review if you can. Thanks so much.
So I've mentioned Three Bridges Consulting. What they do is they market your company. They lead the creative, they find the audience. What they produce, commercials, social media content, possibly even documentaries. It's long form, it's short form. One recent success story, working with a home services company in Chicago, a company that refaces cabinets. They launched a campaign in January. They had 5 times the revenue of their previous January and $1 million more in revenue than in any prior month after they launched this campaign. Once again, it's 3 Bridges Consulting. The number 3, bridgesconsulting.co. The Back Nine is fully baked with hugs and kisses by Stella Mix Productions and recorded at Pixelworks Studios in Delray Beach, Florida.